And sziasztok! Sok szeretettel üdvözlöm mindenkit itt az MPV-nek egy különleges élő adásában, amiben a Universal Audio központjából fognak nekünk egy nagyon-nagyon izgalmas workshopot tartani a Lunában. Pedro De Sousa lesz a vendégünk, hamarosan már itt van a vonal végén, csak gondoltam egy gyors magyar beköszönés, hogy ne lepődjetek meg, hogy mostantól át fogunk váltani angolra. Úgyhogy akik nem tudnak angolul, lesz elvileg nekik egy kis angol nyelvű felirat, ami talán kicsit segít a megértésben, de próbáljuk ezt majd utólag feliratozni, nem sikerült élőben megoldani. Akik meg tudnak angolul, ők meg nyugodtan tehetitek fel a kérdéseket a kommentben angolul, és akkor azokat beolvasom. Ha feltehetitek magyarul, csak akkor nekem fordítanom kell, az egyik bonyolultabb lesz. Úgyhogy ha valaki picit beszél angol, nyugodtan tegye fel a kérdéseket, és akkor ezeket be is fogjuk olvasni. Úgyhogy sok szeretettel üdvözlünk mindenkit. 8-kor fogunk így elindulni, de Pedrót mindjárt be fogunk kapcsolni, hogy egy kicsit így beszélgessünk is róla. Elég sokan vagyunk a streamen, úgyhogy nem akarok senkit megváratni. Úgyhogy szerintem akkor csapjunk is bele. Annyit igazából még meg kell itt csinálnom, hogy átkapcsolok az ő kis streamjébe, és be kell kapcsolnom nekem a webkamerát, és szerintem akkor csapjunk bele. Go. You can switch back the sound.
Am I allowed to speak now?
Yes. Welcome.
Well, thank you.
So
thank
everyone,
you,
please welcome Pedro De Sousa from UA. He's a product expert. As it's okay. You are product expert from UA.
Product specialist, but yeah.
Product specialist. This is the right title. And before we go, I want to have a warm welcome here in the music production workshop. It's really good to be here, and this is the first English live session in this channel, so it will be a really, really exciting night, I think.
Oh wow! Okay, that's quite an honor. So yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, thank you for having me, and yeah, really excited for our session today. We're going to be listening some music. So yeah, so as Dani mentioned, so my name is Pedro De Sousa. I'm the product specialist for Universal Audio in Europe. One of the things that I look after is just, sharing the knowledge about UA when it comes to hardware and software. And today we're going to be doing a little bit of that, and also, having fun digging into this session that I prepared for you guys. And hopefully, again, we're going to have a little time, and, great time listening to some music.
Oh, I know the sound. Sorry.
What's the sound?
The countdown. The countdown. The countdown.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. I don't know. So here we are. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Perfect. So let's dive in, I think.
Let's dive in. Okay, cool.
What did you prepare for us for tonight? So we will in Luna?
Yes. Yeah, so we're going to be checking a session that we created in Luna. So Luna is, UA is the AW, completely free for both Mac and Windows users. We have now just introduced an open beta for Windows users. You can go download it from our website and start using Luna right away on your machine.
So it's a beta version, and not a final version.
On Windows for now, yes, but Mac definitely, the full release version. We've had it in Mac platform for over 4 years now, just shy of 4 years, yeah. And so we're going to be digging into that session, something we recorded using the standard microphones, which, by the way, you're listening my voice right now through one of them, introducing the new 3 microphones that we just released to the market. So the SD5, SD3, and SD7. Sorry for the random order I said that, because I was thinking kick, snare, and overheads. You'll see it in a moment. That's the way I set them up on the drums. But yeah, what you're about to hear in this session, most likely you will recognize it's a cover. It's all of the instruments were recorded with the microphones belonging to the standard series. Not only are you going to hear the new ones, but you also are going to hear this one, the SC1, which is our condenser microphone, the SP1, the two pencil microphones, which we ended up using to do gang vocals, and then we also using the all of them across either to mic cabinets or just to use it as room microphones for the guitars, etc. So a lot of fun. On the day, we used an Apollo X4, so I was using 4 inputs, and basically we overdubbed all the different instruments as we went, okay? And so first we did drums, then bass, then guitars, and finally we did the vocals.
So, perfect. Can you tell me about more Luna for the beginners or for those who doesn't know really well the DAW? Is it considered as a DAW or a recording platform, as you mentioned?
It's definitely, yeah. So I started to share my screen. Hopefully people can, start to see that. Amazing. So yeah, there it is. So it's our DAW. And you may start to see something that feels a little bit different from perhaps what you've seen on other DAWs. So you have certain things as part of the Luna ecosystem where your buses, for instance, you have the ability to use either Neve or API summing as a way to impart character to your audio. So this is something that makes Luna really, really special. It's the fact that if you want, you'll have multiple points in your mixing path to introduce character, being that by summing on any of the buses, playing off multi-track tapes, or using a fully fledged API desk that's probably right now on your screen. We'll have the input stage, the dynamics, and EQs split across all my channels, and I can even go between the 2 different types of EQ, either the 550 or the 560L of the API desk. On the buses as well, you'll have the opportunity to introduce the bus compression of those desks. So you'll have the 2500 as your bus compressor. Speaking as well of the master bus, you will have a special type of tape as well, the master tape that you can, instead of the Studer, we'll be rocking the ATR. Again, and all of this is to impart character to your tone, if you so desire. So in a session like this, adding those little nuances, it immediately elevates. Just before I start to do very drastic changes to my EQ or adding a lot of compression, and you'll hear it in a minute, I'm not using a lot of compression, anything like that. Just running it through a desk, doing a little bit of EQ. We also have some other tricks that we'll discuss in a minute, but that's something that really I think is quite special of the Luna platform. If I switch then to the editing window, this will feel mostly familiar for everybody who's opened a DAW before, where you got your audio tracks that you can immediately just select and edit. So all the editing is done on this window. You never drag the way to any other window. Rename all your tracks from here. If it's the very first time you're using Luna and you're wondering, okay, does that mean I need to learn all my shortcuts from scratch, or I'm not quite sure how to do something? You have this area over here called workflow that will put at your fingertips the most used tools for you to start, right away get stuck in and edit audio and start creating your arrangement once you've recorded either some MIDI or some audio.
So, about Luna, what do you think, what are the main benefits using Luna compared to other DAWs?
I think what makes it so special is the fact that all of those tools that I was showing you guys earlier, showing everybody earlier, the fact that you can embed all of this character right at the mixing stage. So it's just running audio through it will immediately start to impact that character. And as we know, DAWs they are as transparent, but if you want to combat that and add that character, I think Luna offers the perfect opportunity to do so. That really makes it really, really special. And then if you happen to be running an Apollo, the way that the Apollo will integrate into Luna, where you, of course, will have all your inputs right there, so you can start then, introducing different plugins, monitor through them, or record directly those plugins, any of the UAD plugins. So it offers that, integration all inside of the Luna platform.
What kind of plugins did you use in this session? Do you use the native UA plugins or the DSP ones?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, I'm using a mixed combination of them. So some of them are only available on the DSP platform. So that's why for instance, I think I have some DS or something like that. Yeah, so those are only DSP. So I'm running those, and same as the 2254, this beautiful compressor that I absolutely love to have on the master bus. But from there, anything, it's a combination. So if it's available natively, I may have loaded the native version. If it's not a DSP, just mix and match. So you can run whatever, or you can run as well third-party plugins. So you can run your favorite plugins in Luna as long as the audio units format. You should be absolutely fine.
And what about the Windows version? It's compatible with VST3, VST2, or?
Yes, it should. Yes,
it should. Yes. Okay. Let's. See
sorry.
Sorry.
I was just thinking. Because Audio Units is a Mac exclusive.
Yes, that's why I'm
asking. So for the Windows, no, correct. Yeah, but we definitely have VST3 plugins across both native and DSP platforms, so those should be absolutely fine.
Okay. How about check the session, what we got here, and then we can start chatting about it.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. At this point, everybody probably bored of hearing me. Okay, so let's just press play and see what we got. Here we go.
Called you so many times today, and I guess it's all true what your girlfriend say, that you don't ever want to see me again, and your brother's gonna kill me and he's 6'10". I guess you call it cowardice, but I'm not prepared to go on like this. I can't stand losing. I can't stand losing. I can't stand losing you.
It's a great song. Congrats.
Yeah. It's I wrote it just the other day.
So, it's all recorded by UA mics, right?
Yes. Yeah. So this was all recorded with the UA microphones. And also, before we start going into the nitty-gritty, I just wanted to say a couple of things. So the whole band that performed this song, they didn't even knew each other before they played the song. And so just the fact that we have this beautiful performance just came together the way you guys just heard it. To me, it's just every time I hear it, just mesmerizes me. Some of them, they didn't even knew each other before they actually did the session. So the fact that, everybody just jumped in and played their part is always, every time I hear it, it's like, how amazing musicians. Anyway, so back to the technical stuff. So yeah, on the day, we recorded everything through the X4, like I said, so the Apollo X4, for those of you who may not be familiar, it's just quick Google, but it's one of our interfaces with 4 preamps, 4 chips of DSP, which we'll see in a minute how that is useful for everything that we did on the day to record, and using the standard microphones with a very special trick that you can add if you so desire, called hemisphere modeling. Okay, so through the usage of hemisphere modeling, what you have is the ability to change the model of the microphone that you now using to capture the audio. Okay, so what we can even, if we wanted right now, we could completely change all the microphone choices I did on the day. And of course, we even have extra control. So switch it off completely. That's something we can test, probably the easiest one to do. And on top of it, on top of the ability to change into different models, so you can see once I click here, it will give me the models available for the source microphone. So that's the way it all comes into play. So we load the plugin.
This is a
we tell him
DSP-based
which
plugin.
one. Actually, it can be both. It can right now is running natively, and that's the beauty. That's why I was saying earlier when I mentioned that we recorded this with an Apollo X4. So what we were able to do on the day is we were monitoring through the Hemisphere plugin running in the SP format, so I could hear exactly how it would impact, the microphone decisions I was making, how would they impact the sounds that we were recording. So, and that's all happening with less than 2 milliseconds of latency. So we're able to capture this performance, set up the cues for the drummer, send them the click. All of it was done through the Apollo. And so, but right now you're listening the native version. What's really cool that you can do in Luna is it will remember all the settings I did on the day. So let me just put a valid input so it doesn't completely derail my microphone and fix that one instead. So if I open this one over here, it will remember you will see it just reloaded. It switched the plugin from being in the native to DSP, so it can now run in accelerated real-time monitoring. That's what's happening through that little file over there. And remember my settings on the day for the preamp that we did using the Unison preamp. And I didn't commit any plugins. I was just monitoring through them. So first doing the modeling and afterwards some EQ with the API desk. That's how we just set everything up. So it allowed me, while we were capturing the audio, to make sure that anything that happened after the drum recording, I could just do some tiny tweaks on the way in and just inform the next performances from the next musician. So kind of allowing me very quickly to kind of mix on the go. So I'm using the DSP for tracking, but then I can offload all of that into, because I was with my just remote setup, which was just my X4, I was moving everything to native. So just very quickly moving between the both.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, there is a button in Luna. It's convert to DSP to native and vice versa. It's really versatile.
Yes. So any plugins that coexist on both the DSP platform and native, which, by the way, when you buy one of them, you get both licenses. Or further down the line, we introduce the DSP version of, the native version of a plugin that you bought perhaps a couple of years back in DSP before we had the native option. You will get that version. So it's really good. That's just the amount of flexibility that will introduce to you, especially when, we went to a specific studio to record this, so I didn't have my full setup. It was really nice to kind of use both. But now I'm back in the studio. I have my satellite over here, the Octo. I could just offload a bunch of those things into it if I wanted.
It's really good. I see that you use the API Unison, if I see correctly, but I don't see the picture at the moment.
Yes, yeah.
Tell me about Unison a bit more. In our community, there is a lot of chat about using Unison and what this is exactly. What does the Unison actually do with the recording? Is it before or after the converter? How does it work?
So with Unison, what you're actually able to do is the preamps of your Apollo. Once you load one of those Unison plugins, what you're actually informing the Apollo to do is now to behave at an impedance level, at its electrical level, to behave exactly like the Unison plugin that you just loaded. So basically now the front end of my Apollo, my pre's, are an API 212L. And that's matching the character completely of what any device that I plug into it would see if you would plug into the hardware unit. And so there's a very specific number of plugins that will be Unison. Not all of the DSP plugins that we have are Unison. So that's when you go browsing in the Unison tab over here, you will see that the list available, depending on how many plugins you have, will be dedicated to a particular type, which mostly it will include preamps, guitar amps, bass amps, and some effects as well. We got some delays in there because they were used for coloration. So going back to what I was explaining about, like how Luna at a mixing stage introduces the opportunity to add character and perhaps inform certain moves inside of your mix. With Unison, you have the exact same ability right at the beginning of your recording, and allowing you to decide how much character, if any. Remember, you can still record through an Apollo without using any Unison at all if you really want to keep it like squeaky clean, no character. But it's very interesting how those nuances may inform a performance in a way. Like also on, I have the ability to monitor after the Unison, add perhaps a little bit of compression or anything like that can spark a certain intention in the way we're recording. So that's, again, all those things are moves that, committing to that very analog workflow, will perhaps make the mixing stage or other steps you make in your production. You perhaps need to not invent the performance, because you already captured in a way that the person recording, being yourself or somebody that came to your studio, immediately got inspired to deliver the very best version of what they had in mind.
So you say it's a different method, like using the 1073 after an insert in the recording, then using the Unison right away, and you commit the sound during the recording, and etc. Yes. Yeah. No, great. Really good. Yeah. Great point. So yeah, that's, again, some people might be thinking, yeah, but I usually do. Think of it like then. So if you're doing it at that stage, it's kind of you running your line level through the desk, if you know what I mean, instead of you recorded your microphone right through that preamp. So that's why anything that you put on the Unison preamp and whatever character it will impart, it will become part of your recording
there's no ungluing the unison preamp when you do it like this. But if you want to be on the safer side, just because perhaps that whole ethos that I was explaining about committing to a certain level of character and color, it's something that you're not prepared to do. Yeah, so what you can then do is just insert those things afterwards, but it's not quite the same thing. And I strongly invite everybody to give that a try, because there's something quite special about it. And the way everything will respond, it's that. It's worth it.
And during the recording, did you use any unison, or you just going through like a clear sound and you tweak it after the session?
So because of what we were doing and the fact that I knew that I was also playing with the Hemishpere, I wanted to keep it, again, the API preamp, it will have a little bit of character, but I wanted to keep it, not too colored, so I can then mostly focus on playing with the Hemishpere modeling and then make any decisions after the modeling.
I see.
So that's why you can see the way I loaded everything else after that. If anything then required a little bit of compression, that could have been added while tracking, or as we added other elements, it felt like perhaps I needed a little bit more of a push. So that's why you're seeing that 1176 on the snare, just to give me a little bit more of a forward sound.
I see an API Vision channel strip over there. Is it the same like the built-in one that it's around the console, or like the channel strip one? It's the same, so it does matter if I use the console API Vision or the channel strip?
Yeah, okay, so it's not quite the same, because the way you're seeing it here, again, you can, it's so all you actually seeing the console extension, which is part of Luna, and so it wouldn't be exactly the same, because if we would be using the let's load that preamp, so everybody that may not be familiar with it. So if we would have gone with the full channel strip over here, that's I'm just using the power, the mic pre of that when we are running through the console API setup. But if I wanted all of this on the Unison pre, I can still do that and still then load the console afterwards. So you have all that flexibility. But to answer your question, no, it wouldn't be the same.
Okay. It's
technically not the same, because then keep in mind, I'm on the setup I had before. Another thing that makes, by the way, when you were asking me earlier, the things that make Luna quite unique is the fact that anything we do is undoable. So, and you have a huge queue of undos. So I could even close the session, open it up again, and start undoing decisions I made the last time I recorded, if you know what I mean. And it's constantly auto-saving. So those are little things that once you get used to it,
all the time, yes.
No, you don't need to get that. Yeah, that claw hand. No, not necessarily. But so yeah, what you're seeing here is what's part of the API console extension exclusive for Luna. So that's why you're seeing on the mixing stage, you're seeing all the rest of what you usually would have seen on the Vision channel strip, on the Unison pre. And just since we're on the topic of differences between, how Luna works compared to perhaps if you were recording using console, which is the free software as well that comes for any Apollo users that may not be using Luna, is in console you get 4 inserts that you can either commit or not commit the audio. What I mean by this is you just monitor through it, or you can record anything you put in there. In Luna, we do it at 2 stages. I can commit 4, and then I have another 4 for monitoring. So that's why I can still go back on certain decisions I made, because for instance, the modeling is not committed. If you know what I mean. If I had put it over here, it would have been committed with the audio. Yeah.
Yes, it's a big difference.
It's just, yeah, it allows you, again, a great use case for this kind of stuff that I tend to use is for perhaps when you feel like you are not afraid to commit compression because you just want to kind of add that control, that level of control, but maybe EQ can be a little bit more conflictive. So you can record the compression, but not your EQ moves. Or again, to use another example, in certain scenarios, you may want to commit a little bit of compression, but not the auto-tune settings that you're using to do your vocal tracking. So stuff like that. It's just because in console you either do one or the other. You cannot do exactly. So you either commit or you don't commit. Whilst here you can do both. You can commit one section and not the other. So it's quite nice level of flexibility.
So as I see, the main advantage of the Luna is the console itself. It's like behaving on an old analog console, and the workflow it's like this, if I see correctly.
It does definitely take you to that kind of mind space where, you know, we have the tape, we are playing off the tape into the mixing desk, and then we're making all our decisions in that. Yeah, it does definitely invite you to that kind of mindset. And then on your buses, you are summing everything that happened with the summing tape, which would be the ATI is one of those type of machines that would have been used for that kind of job. So it definitely allows you to do that kind of analog workflow if you so desire.
Speaking of tape emulations, what is your favorite tape emulations which available in Luna? What do you like to use mostly?
So I'm not gonna lie. So it really depends on what we're doing, and so let me open here. So when you have, so people can see a little bit how it all works. So you have the option to have 4 different types of multi across my mix. Either you commit to one type of multi-track tape to give the cumulative effect of that particular decision, or you can just go, all my drums, I want it to be on a certain formulation, and then all my guitars to be on a different formulation, and so forth. And the presets on the Studer, well, Oxide is absolutely fantastic. By the way, when you get Luna Free, that would be the multi-tape you get is Oxide. Some of the stuff I'm showing you, like the console, the Studer, the ATR, those would be part of Luna Pro, which, by the way, you can try for 30 days. And so you can see when I open the Studer A800 over here, it has a nice list of presets. And honestly, just press play, load the tape across the tracks you feel like you want to add that kind of character. Just go through the different presets, see how it suits your sound, how is it bringing certain elements to the forefront, some of the stuff just getting pushed back. And then if you still want to tweak, you still got some room in there, but it's really, really quite special. If you guys want, we can do a quick A/B comparison.
Yes, do that.
Yeah. So let's move the arrangement. So we're gonna move it into that pre-chorus, and so we'll switch it on and off. There might be a little bit of a gap between switching. Actually, I can do one that's quite extreme, which is killing all the extensions, which is killing all the tape, all the console moves, all the summing. Are we prepared for that?
Anyway, that's my favorite feature of Luna. It's killing the extensions and bypassing and A and B the things. It's really good.
Yeah, I think let's do the that's, it's such a radical move. So yeah, so let's listen to that pre-chorus, and then I'll just switch all the extensions off at once so you can definitely hear what's going on in there.
Yes, you call it cowardice, but I'm not prepared to go on like this. I can't stand losing. I can't stand losing. I can't stand losing you. I can't
also you got to appreciate how quickly that was. How many things
we
switched
heard
off
a
at
little
once.
delay, but we hear the A and B, so at least I hear here in the studio, but I don't
Hopefully,
know that the
oh,
guys
yeah,
here
this
in the
is-
stream.
oh.
So let me know if you hear the difference via the stream.
Yeah.
So
And
hallottátok
hopefully,
a
there was,
különbséget. I just told Hungarian the same thing.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Actually, we've been talking about like this stuff like unison and whatnot, and all this time we've been hearing it. So not only you've been hearing unison, you've also been hearing hemisphere, because if we look over here, my microphone is coming through this preamp over here, this beautiful V76, and on the monitoring path, I'm running the Hemisphere plugin, and that's the microphone I'm using, the DN441. Every single source microphone will have a dedicated, locker of microphones related to the source microphone that we're using. So if I click on it, it tells me the available options. So I can perhaps go to something a bit more forward, like this guy over here. Something a bit more vintage, like the ribbon microphone. A bit darker, like the DN7, or brighter, like the DN88. That one, the DN88 on vocals. Actually, I'm really liking the way it sounds over here. And but the DN44, I think, is a good balance. And if any of those original microphones that we're using had a particular setting, we also captured all of that as part of the modeling. So that's why you can see now changing how my voice sounds going through the different filters, like the original microphone had. On top of it, I also have the opportunity to dial back and forth the proximity. So now, as it would be the equivalent of me moving further away from the microphone to reduce that low end bump that you tend, exaggeration that you tend to get once you get close to the microphone. We can obviously reverse the effect, as you can hear now. I really need to be careful there.
And you can change it in post
And
every
probably-
time, right?
Absolutely. And I like where your mind is going. Think about it. You can even automate it to create different moments.
So you can
as part of the
automate
vocal
that I'm
performance.
moving back and forth in front of the mic without moving actually
Yes.
in front of the mic. It's really good.
Yes.
So speaking of Hemisphere,
and-
it's
and-
a new collection of the Sphere mics. There was a question in the stream that it's new mics from UA. So it's not the Sphere, it's the Hemisphere collection, just clarifying.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that Sphere has stopped existing. Sphere still exists. It's just a different type. So those are that was actually part of the first foray that we had into modeling. So the after Chris Townsend, with the introduction of his microphone, the Sphere L22, and then he joined Universal Audio back in 2021, we then released the Sphere LX and the LX, and those microphones still exist. They will come with even more models, more control, the opportunity for you to change polar patterns as well, off-axis control, not only on-axis but off-axis, and combining different models of microphone and create your own unique mic by controlling the front and back capsule. Here, so with Sphere, you always need to be using two channels of your interface, because we need to capture the front and back capsule
So
audio
it's a stereo mic.
with it's basically, it is a mono microphone. The DLX will be able to record in stereo if you put it to its side. It has a little stereo indication in there. It's a mono microphone, but it needs to be plugged into channels of your interface, and then the plugin will decode that into mono. So it's always a mono mic, but it needs to be captured because we're using both the front and back capsule to create the different polar patterns. On the other hand, with Hemishpere, which the play here is you having half somehow of the technology available in Sphere, and allowing you to. Sorry, is my voice still okay?
Yes, it's okay. It's okay.
A bit too quiet now.
I will let you know if something's wrong.
Sorry, I was just under the impression I was maybe clipping a bit too much, so apologies for any pops. And so over in this case with Hemishpere, you only use a regular XLR straight into your interface. It can either be an Apollo or can be any interface you want. And of course, as I explained earlier, if you happen to be using an Apollo, you have the ability, like I'm doing right now, listening has the modeling will impact the decisions you are making, and if that's something that, you know, is suitable for the performance or not. Or you can record without no modeling at all, like Daniel was saying earlier, and, you know, and then we just do it after the fact.
It's really good. It works like a magic from here. Could you do?
It does feel like.
I know that you cannot dig into the technical details, but in the future, can you imagine that these kind of modeling mics can replace the ordinary mics in the studios, or just it will be an option, or it will be a creative way to record and track tracks?
I think, well, I think that's an excellent question. I think that the only way we can, actually, I would love to see what kind of comments we get on the chat. I think the opportunities that this kind of technology offers are really, really interesting. And the way you can extend your mic locker to give you different options even after the fact. So we already recorded, but I could now, let's pick up those guitars. I think, let me show you my real favorite thing about this kind of technology is as we pick the guitars, you know, as we recorded the guitars on the day, we made certain decisions on the miking. So we were using the SD7 with that microphone, the SD3. All of these, by the way, they all cardioid microphones. And then finally for the room, we picked the SC1 doing a 47 modeling. And that is the guitar you're hearing on your left. Keep in mind, on the day, I'm recording the same guitar in the same room. Yes, I could have moved my room microphone, but time was of the essence. We needed to complete everything within a quite limited amount of time, so we needed to move quick. So we didn't move any of the microphones to create variety. It was the same amplifier. We're recording everything again. When it's time now to go to my right channel, the guitar that I used to overdub, I was able to introduce some variations to the sound by the room microphone. I changed it after the fact to be an 87 compared to the other decision I did for the left channel is my 47. I also was able, one of the other cool tricks that you have inside of the Hemishpere plugin is able to rotate on axis. So think on the day, I placed the microphones right on the speaker. But as you will see, let me bring the other one back on the left channel so you can compare a little bit of what I've done. I found that rotating it ever so slightly on both channels was introducing and allowing me to pick up certain combinations of frequencies. Something that perhaps on the day it was not really obvious. I was not in a familiar monitoring situation. So to a certain extent, I'm able to have a safety net with this kind of technique. And then when I'm back in my studio and listening in a room that I know, that I'm, it's treated the way I like, I then can fine tune those microphone decisions before I even use an EQ. That's what I found that's really, really interesting. You know, that this kind of facility, this technology can allow you to use across your recordings and productions. I find that really interesting.
I'm just thinking about miking drum sets with different kind of things, and experimenting with the different polar patterns and emulations, it could be a game changer to record the drums, and you can decide it in the past that, oh, I don't want that setting, so you can switch polar pattern emulations after the tracking itself.
Yeah, and actually, I'm glad that you brought the drums up, because here's something. So you guys remember earlier I mentioned that we recorded with an Apollo X4, and so it's 4 inputs. So we did the drums with 4 inputs, and but then because of the Hemishpere, when we are using the SD5 not only is able to do the different microphones. So the SD5 is a microphone that really shines on capturing low-end kick drums, bass, and you can see it also has this really cool trick. And by the way, there's a little nice thing in here. Let me know if you want me to make that bigger. By the way, Dani, I can make that.
It's
bigger.
Okay. Can you show a sound? How it sounds with and without the model?
Perfect. Let's do that. Right. Okay, let me just close this. I'll make that smaller so it's a little bit more manageable. So we're just going to listen just to the drums, and I'm going to mute that kick sub.
We don't have any sound.
No, because we're just listening to the drum reverb. So let's do it now. Here we go. Hopefully everybody could hear, like, as by adding that sub, I'm getting a fuller sound. It was with those 4 microphones, I was able to duplicate the track in my kick track. Instead of using the original emulation I had in there, I was able to then load the sub trick over here and really play with the proximity. I did apply some filtering, but these were all decisions I was able to do after the fact to enhance that kit that initially was just captured with 4 mics.
So actually you did duplicate it and made the layer without retracking the new one.
Exactly. And, that means that phase coherence-wise, that sub is absolutely locked with the kick mic.
That's the magic. I like it. It's really good.
Yeah, that kind of
you
stuff.
Can even do layering with guitars and things like that without re-recording other shots with different mics, because you can switch polar patterns and things like that, and even the phase.
So wait, okay. Let's. So polar patterns, that would be with Sphere only. With Hemishpere, we don't have access to polar patterns, and doing it over on guitars, I do feel like it's. I would probably use that with a little bit more caution, because it's the same performance, and then if you start panning things around, you do get much more of a chorusing effect rather than just a widening effect, because we do need those little nuances between the performance so when you overdub. But technically, you're absolutely correct. You can just duplicate the tracks and start playing with different models for that particular microphone.
It's a good news for a lazy guy, which I am. We got a question. It's related to the topic from the chat. How much close these modeling methods are to the original microphones?
How close are they to the... I guess it's just one of those, like...
In terms of sound and frequency response.
100% model to match the original microphone that we capturing, yes. So that's the intention.
So in the near future, we can select all of our mics and buy some modeling mics, and we are ready to go.
I don't know. What do you guys think? I think there's room for both. It really depends. And also, at some point, I would love to play you guys. We can do it again with the drums. If you want to hear how it sounds even without modeling.
Can you bypass only the sub and only maybe the overhead like in solo? And then we can see in a group.
Yeah. So, do you want me to just kill just the modeling?
Just the modeling, yes.
Oh yeah, that's easy. Okay, so we're gonna start with, and then I'll just switch it off.
Okay, super.
Now, if anybody can guess why is that such a big difference on those overheads, especially I'm gonna guess that you probably are an Hemishpere user and you have a set of those mics and you know why they went from such a different sound. Because remember earlier I said all of those are dynamic microphones, and when you switch on the modeling, you hear much darker sound.
Yeah.
So that perhaps is giving you some hints that the model I've chose to use with those microphones is this beautiful ribbon, absolutely inspired. This is something I wanted to mention earlier. So every single microphone for you will have some history in case you want to understand why did we pick that mic. So this is a very famous microphone that was used to record drums for bands such as Led Zeppelin, and a little bit borrowing inspiration from Glyn Johns and his miking technique. That's how I use the SD7 to capture the overhead. So when you have one microphone on top of the drums and one to the side, and the moment you put this model in there, you get such control over the cymbal bleed because it's a very dark type of mic, as opposed to the dynamics microphones, which will have much more of a sizzle. So just to, again, that's why we're coming back to using the Apollo on the day. I was able to listen immediately the impact. I was not deferring those decisions, but I was not closing any doors. And on the other microphone, so on the SD3, which is great for snares or toms, we're using the DN57, but I could have gone with other options. I was kind of going between them two, but in the end I opted that 57 was giving me that snap that I was really, really enjoying. So going back to your question, will it replace them? I think it could be a great way to introduce options. You may be absolutely falling in love with a particular model, and then you buy the original hardware, and then you use the modeling as a way to get more versions of the hardware. I don't know. It's just we spoil for choice.
It's exciting.
We have so many ways of producing nowadays. It's just
actually, do you have these mics around you on the desk, or can you show us a picture of the SD3, SD5?
I'm terribly sorry. No, I don't have anything right now.
No problem. We didn't talk about it. Just a question.
Sorry, I didn't prepare that. Apologies.
We have a good comment.
Yeah,
sorry for interrupting you. Automation is the key feature here. Sessions can be drastically sped up because it eliminates some of the try and error sort of tinkering.
Mm-hmm.
So So it got the point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, like, it's just to give you an idea, like, those drums were recorded after 2 takes. Yes, Chris is an amazing drummer, but it was very easy for us to get that sound. And, like, the moment we were getting enough levels for me to line up the decisions, it was really quick. So before we get into the frustration, should I move this, should I move that, it allows us to move really, really quick. When we did the guitar overdubs, it was the same thing. Once we were locked in, because I knew I had those options to play with. Going back to vocals and stacking vocals, because I was able to, very quickly maybe just load whatever felt right, or not use Hemishpere at all. But I know that, like you guys are mentioning on the chat, then I still have the option to perhaps play with the different models to make it really sit in the mix. So yeah.
The mix had an interesting room reverb. Those are from mics or from plugin reverb? It's a comment from YouTube.
Yes. So is it on the... Can you... So if it's on the vocals, we actually are using this beauty over here, okay, which is the Hitsville. And this is just, it's a chamber, okay? So perhaps that's what you're hearing. If it was across the guitars, it would have been the room sound that we picked with the SC1. And then we played as well a little bit with one of our effects, the Galaxy, and we put that on the guitar. So there's a little bit of that spring. But if it's the vocals you're referring to, that's what we're using. Yeah, absolutely love it. So it's magical. Anything you put in here, it could be like, you know, the most aggressive synthesizer, or to use it to do something a bit more conventional like percussion. It will just always sounds beautiful. Even on bass, I have another track I've been working, and I put it on bass and absolutely love it.
It's really good. It's really good. Do you have any interesting things to show in the project, which is connected to the Hemishpere?
Yeah. I actually, so when we captured on the day the different instruments, there were certain things I was planning, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to use that. But there was one instrument that I really loved the way it came together, and it was the bass. So we're using the combination of 3 microphones. We tried to keep it very age correct when it came to certain decisions. So we used a P bass. Ricky played the bass part, so he was using a P bass. And we were using an SVT and an 8x10. And we put 3 microphones on it. And I just wanted to, again, there's no compression. We used a little bit of compression on the way in with one of our pedals, the Max, on 1176 setting. And that is it. So we didn't, there's, other than a little bit of filtering, there's no compression, there's nothing on that bass, and it just sounds monster with that kick, with that drum. So let me just play that for context. Absolutely love the bass tone. So let me show you what the microphones we used and the decisions we made. So the SD5, we put it on the sub mode. We used the microphone I'm speaking through with you guys on that model. And right next to it, we were using the SC1 with that model. So we had this microphone and this microphone pointing at the same speaker, and on a different speaker we had the SD5, which kind of creates like this, almost like a multi-band compression just by the way it's picked up. The part is very well played in my opinion, and there's a lot of control on that palm muting, and the fact that we added a little bit of compression on the way in kind of rounded everything else. So we have this monster bass tone that just, you know, pops out on different speaker systems and really gels well with the drums. And that was, you know, because most of the time when we think about recording bass, you think, oh yeah, one bass, you know, one microphone will do. I invite you guys to perhaps experiment, you know, something like this. And yeah, that SD5 on the sub mode was golden.
We have a question from YouTube. Also, do you have always keep a mix this minimalistic? So it's minimalistic mix.
Yeah, that's a great question. So on this instance, I really wanted to keep it very streamlined in the sense that there's not a lot of, I don't know, parallel processing and stuff like that I absolutely love. I felt like for this song, it was about letting the performance shine quite a lot. And yes, there's some automation of reverbs and stuff like that, but I didn't felt like I needed a lot of parallel processing, which is something I really do. So to answer your question, it was a stylistic decision on this instance. It suited the song, and but usually I will have, so all the drums will be on the bus, and then they will have parallel processing that will be kind of feeding into that bus. That will be a music bus with their own parallel processing, and same with the vocals, which will have also that parallel processing. And the fact I can get away with a lot of that and don't drive myself insane when I'm doing so much bussing is Luna has this little nifty feature. What you see over here where it says spill. So any buses that you create throughout your session that feed the main bus, if I press spill, me those buses. So this allows two very cool tricks. So remember earlier I was saying like, oh, I'll bus all my drums, all my music, and all my vocals. So if I need to print a quick stem version of the track, I can actually go into the workflow over here, and I'll have the mix down where I can choose either my buses, individual tracks, and everything else. So it speeds up my life quite quickly if I need to create multiple versions of my session. And so I really love that. And it will include any processing that you have on those individual tracks. And so, yes, I'm quite addicted to busing and parallel processing. For this track, it felt like this sparse will be enough. But if you're referring to the tracks itself, that is my mixing style. I'm not going to lie. I tend to apply very little compression on the tracks themselves, unless we're talking drums or something very specific, vocals. And EQ wise, I'm pretty much all the time relying only on the API desk, and I'm kind of committing to an ethos of, if I'm learning the desk and learning what those EQ points do, because sometimes hearing EQ can be a little bit confusing, but because those jumps are so big, those are 2 dB jumps, you cannot really doubt yourself, can I hear it or not? And you can go really aggressive one direction or the other, and you really start to feel like you can see there's certain moves about, removing some 700 so somebody else can have it. On the verse guitar, I didn't touch anything, but when we go to the choruses, because it's panned, it felt too heavy. So you can see I'm removing a little bit and then adding in here. And then when I go to the vocals, I'm actually pulling some of it. So it creates this little visual pattern, if you will, that allows you to understand how to create almost like pockets of EQ. And I'm absolutely hooked with it. And it's really helped me understand further EQ. And most of the time I realize, I don't know if you guys will share the same opinion, when I think I should be compressing something, actually I need to EQ it. And once I started to commit to that ethos and EQing before even doing any compression, things started to sit way better. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Sorry, I went on a journey there.
But I think in terms of EQing, with these emulations of mics, I think you will EQ less than a normal way, because in the tracking session, you can make even the proximity and the things like that, and you can save a lot of EQing before you even put an EQ into the chain, I think.
That's also true. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, of course, when you are recording, that's why the first thing I said earlier when we talked about the song is how those musicians, they are making the track. I knew the very moment we put those mics up and Chris, the drummer, did that drum fill. I was like, okay, we will be fine. The way the part is being performed, I just need to make sure I got the mics pointing in the right direction, if you know what I mean. But then you have all those little tricks. And so I agree, you have the ability immediately to hear like, oh, if the microphone is giving me the sounds I want, then yeah, you have not a lot to do with EQ. And in general, if we were talking about like, we're not recording live instruments, we're playing with samples. Honestly, if maybe, I know without entering sound design, and if you need to EQ so much a sound until it actually fits your track, maybe it was not the right sound to begin with. Unless we're doing some crazy sound design, don't get me wrong. I know that's definitely certain genres is all about that. But yeah, food for thought. But to your point, of course, yeah, we're listening how the mics, already informing most of the decisions, so you don't need to go crazy.
Yeah. Once Andrew Sheps told me that don't EQ in solo too much for looking problems, because you eventually find a lot more problems, and you over polish the track instead of filling into the mix.
I 100%, yeah, and I'm a huge fan of his ethos of mixing, and that's why perhaps when you heard the drums in isolation, it felt like, oh, they went from super drag to super dark for super bright. But when you heard it with the guitars, you maybe not even thought, oh, they were dark or bright. It just felt like, the cymbals were sitting exactly where the guitars have enough room to shine when you go into that chorus. So, yeah, isolation can sometimes be very misguiding. So, yeah, that's words of wisdom from Shep. Yeah.
It's another question related to the Hemishpere. If I'm doing tracking in a home studio, so it's not a professional studio, in a home studio, how much mics should I buy to record instruments like guitars, drums? What do you think? What's your point? 2 or 3 mics? What kind of mics from these modeling collections? What would be the best bundle to start a session with only UA mics?
Okay, so are we talking about acoustic guitars? Are we talking about electric guitars?
Let's do both.
Okay, well, if we are doing acoustic guitars, I think the SB1, so the small pencil ones, would be quite interesting. They sound great on guitars. The SC1 would also be really interesting, the one I'm using here on vocals, again, which is a mic that would lend itself quite nicely for vocals. So I would say SC1 or SB1 to do acoustic, and if you're doing acoustic and electric, the SC1, and then maybe with this bad boy over here, the SD7, that would be really cool. Yeah, and which you can combine, which is a little bit what we did. Or to answer your question, if I show you again the 3 mics I used for doing guitars, probably electric guitars, you will see it was the SD7, SD3, and on room, the SC1. So, yeah, I think those 3, that's a great combo, because it will cover all your electric guitar or bass scab needs. If we need to do some acoustic, you got the SC1. And if you need to do even some drums, you could even use the SC1 as a mono overhead, put the SD3 on your snare, and then maybe the SD7 further out to create like a kit image. So yeah, that's it really depends how many inputs, how many, and then slowly add up. I think those 3 will be a good combo.
Yeah, so with the X4, 3 would be more than enough in a home environment.
Yeah, if you have a decent sounding room, you can get some really cool drums. A sound, again, depends on the genre, but just with 4 mics. And the 4 mics I used were the 2 SD7s, 1 SD3, and 1 SD5.
And what do you suggest for just only recording vocals, raps, or any kind of vocal performance?
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot. Yeah, because it really depends. Oh, sorry. It really depends on the genre. If you want to cover a lot of bases, the SC1 is a great bet. But if you, again, the one I'm using right now, the SD1, could also cover a lot of ground. And maybe if we're doing a lot of rapping as well, or if you have very energetic singers, maybe the room is not really treated, then you can play with the fact that, to record with a mic like this, you need to be quite close to it. So maybe harder, but either the SD1 or the SC1, dare I say.
So it's an ultimate solution for recording, I think. So wrapping up the session we have, so we got the Luna, we got loaded up with only UA plugins recorded with the Hemishpere mic collections and with using the Hemishpere emulations. Is there anything do you want to tell about the session or something exciting to show, or we can end up here?
No, again, that was the just one little detail that I thought I would share with you guys. So I asked the bass player as well to listening to the original arrangement to recreate an organ part, which is in there just to help with that little lift. and it's probably he wrote me way more notes, and I kept editing his arrangement. So we do have a virtual instrument in here that I just quickly want to share it, but it's so tucked in just to help with that little lift. And Ricky probably spent way more time on it than I did, but you know, it does have it.
It's an organ or some? Well, yes, it's an organ. You don't have any voice. You muted yourself or something like that.
If I'm muted,
yes.
Is it back now?
You're back now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was just because there was a solo in the track. So yeah, So I just really want to show you that, like, you know, one of our virtual instruments as well, which is something that we now have available. So we have different synthesizers like the Moog, Polymax, but yeah, this beautiful B3 that, you know, had its little moment of glory. The original part was way bigger, but yeah, in the end, that's just to help with that lift. So that's just a little detail that I want to share with everybody. It's
really good. I think we could have a little bit Q&A if everyone agrees it.
Yeah.
So a bit Hungarian words for the listeners. Tudtok feltenni kérdéseket magyarul és angolul, és akkor fel tudom olvasni Pedrónak. Then, till we waiting for the questions, we can talk about a bit more Luna, if you like it. What is your favorite trick or favorite feature in Luna? Your personal favorite, not the UA favorite. Your personal favorite.
No, yeah, you know how I'm going to tell. So, I really, really like. Let me show you that every single clip has immediately the option for you to change pitch. And it's something I really like to use when I'm using percussions and stuff like that. So I can really, you know, find different textures and play with the... Also, you can then change the view from clips to the warp points. So it really allows me to either apply quantization to any clip or me start moving around the warp markers either to the grid or move them freely. So I really like that, you know, you can customize any loops that you put it in or nudge the performance into the direction you might want. So that's one trick that I really like to create groove. If we're doing it across the drums, because we have our very own algorithm on the when it comes to warping, we have a phase coherent algorithm with razor blade where you can change the tempo of your drums, change the different warp markers into the grid whilst maintaining phase, and it's super easy to do. You just select all your tracks, move it together, and or you can even have like a preference. So if you have like a room mic, or you want to give that will be slightly delayed and you want everybody to follow your kick drum, so it really makes editing in phase super easy. So that's, you know, those things are very easy to do. And my final one, I know you asked me just one, but I had to give you three.
You can give more.
The fact that every single track in the utility tool that you have here, which you may think, okay, well, how is that even fun? The fact that you can introduce little amounts of delay across your track and just create different pockets for the groove, I find those really cool. To maybe you have a singer that might be a little bit behind the pocket and you want to nudge him, you just introduce like microseconds of latency to do that. So you can move it just there, just type it in here, it will just move you in microseconds. Sometimes with the bass, maybe you have again, the bass was a bit too relaxed, or it's too on top of the kick. You want that kick to, cut better than your bass. Delaying it a couple of milliseconds, you can
fix phase issues with this.
And performance issues as well, or even before you started doing side chaining, just moving those elements slightly off each other. So I love the utility tools like this where they just introduce some creative aspects as well. So yeah.
we got a question on YouTube. Can you show us how can Luna detect tempo on already recorded track? I haven't found it anywhere, unfortunately.
It doesn't. You will need to do it manually yourself. So you can tell it where's bar 1, and then you calculate where bar 4 would land, and it will slowly start to draw the tempo line for you. And then, yeah, once you have enough, once you've done enough that you know you're now in the ballpark, then what you can do is extend the tempo line completely, and then you would be able to now commit that line. Or you can leave it in as drawn, and from that point onwards, everybody will commit to that tempo. But
something connection problem.
It's
okay. We are back. We are back.
Oh, sorry.
We have a little dropout in audio movers.
Oh, apologies. Yeah. So I was just saying. I'll just repeat what I said. So you have to do that manually. So you start by setting bar 1 and then align to bar or align to grid. So it will start slowly drawing the tempo map from that movement, but you have to do it manually.
Another question. How does your workflow differ when you're working with live recording instruments compared to the software instruments, one-shots, etc.? How do you approach a mix from the early stage?
Wow, that's a really, really good question. I actually work on a similar way, which is about making sure that the elements that I'm adding to the production, one, do they really deserve to be there? And are they really adding to the result that we after, which is to have a song? Is it really... So I don't get super caught up doing a lot of, heavy compression or heavy EQ. It's more about, and even if you look at where my faders are in the mix, I try to make sure I gain stage all my samples that we import in. So if I leave everything at 0, it's not causing my master bus to be completely smashed. So that's why you've seen that on the utility over here, some of the elements I recorded a bit too hot. So then I had to, actually from the utility, drop the levels a little bit, as you can see.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I need to I always make sure that gain staging wise, I'm in a good spot. Then I do my panning, start to create space. If there's something that's really getting in the way, then I open this bad boy and start to make some moves. So yeah, there you go. On the snare, I'm doing like how many is that? 9 dB boost on the snare, because it felt like it needed to come forward, and then we're using the compressor. So I will do that kind of movement, but mostly I will focus a lot on the arrangement and sound selection, then moved by gain staging, panning, mild EQ, a couple of effects like reverbs, delays on the channel if they are a particular part of the performance, and that's it. Once I can press play and everything at 0 feels pretty good, and then I move to a separate template where you can just Luna's very easy to do that. So I create a session called mix, and I import all my tracks in with all those decisions, and I keep mixing from there.
Luna is fantastic for recording, but can we expect new features that make electronic music production easier in the future?
What kind of features would you like to see? That would be my question.
I don't know. Let me know, Gary. I have a question though. Do you have actually bounce in place in Luna?
Okay, so before I forget the just going back to the point of the previous question, anything like that, you've noticed up here we have a button called feedback. That's the most powerful button. You have, well, I'm joking, the most powerful button is the mute one, but you get my point. So any suggestions like that, drop us on the feedback. That's why we put it in there. Okay, so if there's certain things you want to see from certain workflows that you perhaps have seen on other DAWs and you love to see it in Luna, we'd love to hear that. That's why we build in the feedback. I would strongly invite you to still, again, if you can elaborate a little bit more on the question, because I produce a lot of electronic music, but I'm recording like external synths through the Apollo. That's how, and then loading the samples in, and I haven't missed stuff that perhaps, you know, I use Ableton loads, and there's certain things I haven't missed so much as I thought I would. Like granted, there's on Ableton, the transient tools that you have in there, like to make them shorter. Yeah, I sometimes, you know, but there's other ways to make choppy sounds, you know what I mean? So I would invite you, just download the free version and put it through its paces, man. And then, yeah, just let us know all about it on the feedback button. And what was the next question? Sorry, Daniel.
Just the bounce in place. Do you have actually bounce in place or group bounce in place or something like that?
So remember earlier I showed you the mix down feature, okay? So that would be one way to anything you've done on a track, just put it there. You have the export version option, which will export the track without the effects. And then you have a freeze track. But bounce in place like Chick does, we don't have that cut right there. So you need to go either through the two options I told you. So either you export the track or you just use the mix down. And you can do any combinations your heart's content. Okay, so do all your virtual instruments, you know, just like that. If you had many, you can search per source, do all your guitars and so forth.
Now the question from YouTube, how much an analog emulation plugin is sensitive to input gain? The gain stage is important as in a real analog environment. What is the recommended level to hit these emulations?
Are we talking about on the mixing stage, for instance? Like, let's see.
I think it's a tracking stage.
Oh, we're talking about on the unison, something like that?
I would say yes, but I don't know 100%.
Okay, well, let's say in unison, I guess it really...
Mixing stage, sorry.
Okay, that makes more... Yeah, okay. So you probably spotted on my drum bus over here. I'm using this beautiful Pultec, and you remember earlier when I said about the gain staging, and so this kind of EQ over here will be quite sensitive to the amount of level you put through it, and it will add a lot of coloration. So it may be something that you really want or not. So it's important to do keep certain levels in mind. Now, some of our plugins, let me show you. The bus compressor I got on the... Yes. Okay. So this guy over here, again, the hardware unit, it will be different for the way, like you just said, different bits of hardware will be more or less sensitive to level. But you can see you got a headroom control right there. So any plugins like this, it does give you way more leeway for you to maybe, you know, because it's going to live on somewhere on your buses or, you know, on a track that might be a little bit too hot. It's worth playing with this to see how much color you're getting, or if you're choking the compressor a bit too much and you don't have anywhere to go with your threshold, maybe consider using the headroom over here to give yourself just that, a bit more leeway. So it is important to consider. As for ideal levels, because again, I know it's going to sound really just a little bit vague, but if you try to keep all your levels somewhere on your meters, at least in Luna, all in the green, it tends to sound really, really good. But some of those emulations, that's why I open up like the Pultec, and you can see I had like a bit of a crisis there with, or should I go with the Hitsville? And chances are I went with this one because I really wanted the coloration. On the day when I recorded the drums, I felt like the toms, the way I was pointing the microphones at the drums, I didn't pick enough tom sound. And adding this, you can see that there's very little EQ, but it was doing exactly what I needed. It was just fattening the sound. So it's for ideal levels. It really comes down to, if you like the way it's sounding because it's giving you that color, go for it. If it's perhaps too much color, see how hard you're hitting the unit. If it still feels it's too much, perhaps consider trying other types of color, like the hits fill. Yeah. A little bit like you would do with hardware.
So, is there any questions, guys? I wait a few minutes. Then, if we not, then we can wrap up and say goodbye. Pedro, it was a really good session, I think. You were so much informative about Luna, so I guess a lot of guys try Luna in the future or do another shot. In the really beginning after COVID, I did a shot, then I missed 2 years or 1 year and downloaded again, and it was a big improve after 2 or 3 years. So it's now a really
it's good to hear.
Good, I think, in that state.
Yeah, no, it's really good to hear that. But yeah, again, just use that feedback button, guys. Let us know. And like I said, Luna Free available for everybody. And then you got Luna Pro that you can try it for 30 days with, all the tricks that you can see over here. And then decide, very quickly, bypassing all the extensions, see how it impacts your sound. And I just remembered something back to your question about bounce in place. We do have a freeze option as well, but I know what you wanted with the bounce in place. But anyway, It's just to let people know that we got all those little stages in there. But yes, I keep coming back to the feedback button. So do let us know.
We have a last question before we say goodbye. Do the summing also simulate that there's no two identical gear in real life?
So, with the Neve summing,
I guess
what you will find, it's a quite heavily colorated sound, and once you get into the vibe of what it can do, you will notice that across your buses, and it's a color that you can add on your buses. Will it be consistent? It's always the same color on all your buses. The answer, it really depends what you're feeding to your buses, the same way that the analog summing would happen in hardware. So that's one. And with the API, the reason I'm using the Neve, because the Neve is quite easy to hear. The API, it might take a little bit longer to hear it, but when you really understand what it does, on this one, this track just made sense to keep it on the Neve. But the API, like on certain genres of dance music and stuff like that, where you might want a faster transient, using the API, the way it punches through, and you can really abuse the amount of headroom, it's really, really cool. Don't get me wrong, it's not like distortion. There's a certain level of coloration that's heavily dependent on what you're feeding on your bus, like you would with hardware. So yeah, a lot to play with. Download it, try it.
Pedro, it was nice to having you, and thanks for having us in this really, really useful live session. And I hope that we can continue it later on with different topics and things later this year.
Awesome.
So we want to thank you to join us, and thanks for having us, and good luck in the future.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for the amazing questions. And great. A lot of fun to be here with you guys today. And hopefully we'll catch you soon on another one.
Thank you. So I switch Hungary at the moment, and I will talk you after the stream. Srácok, remélem nagyon tetszett nektek ez a műsor, és ez egy ilyen tesztjellegű angol livestream volt, úgyhogy ha szeretnétek még hasonló ilyen workshopokat, akár a Universal Audio-val, akár más gyártókkal, szakemberekkel, akkor nyugodtan írjátok meg kommentbe, hogy legyen-e hasonló, mert nagyon nyitottak vagyunk erre. Próbálunk majd utólag akár feliratot is szerezni hozzá, de várjuk mindenfajta visszajelzést és fajta óhaj-sóhajokat így ezzel kapcsolatban. Egy picit én is izgultam, de majd lesz több rutinom az egészben, úgyhogy mindenkinek köszönjük szépen a megtisztelő figyelmet, és akkor még nincs itt a nyári szünet, egy csomó adással készültem, úgyhogy még lesz egy csomó minden. Itt az A csatornán és a B csatornára is folyamatosan érkeznek a videók. Úgyhogy mindenki vigyázzon magára, és köszönjük szépen mindenkinek a megtisztelő figyelmet. Sziasztok!